This is CNN.
Cheryl and I will be back in 30 minutes. Inside Politics is next.
First, business news with Jan Hopkins in New York.
Thanks, Cheryl and Lou. The Dow Jones Industrial Average recouped nearly half of yesterday's 47-point plunge today. Reports showing a plunge in orders for durable goods and a big jump in first-time unemployment claims had little effect on the stock market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed the day with a gain of nearly 20 points at a level of 3244.86. Volume heavy, almost 195 million shares traded, and gaining issues beat out losing issues by just a slight margin. The broader and secondary markets all closed the day higher as well. Bond prices fell for the second day in a row. The Treasury's 30-year benchmark issue down another 12/32, and that yield now stands at 7.78%. That's the latest in business news. I'm Jan Hopkins reporting live from the New York Stock Exchange. Inside Politics is next. President Bush takes his domestic storm show on the road, seeking public support for the act or else deadline he's given Congress.
White House hopeful Bob Kerrey unveils 2 new TV ads. Others in the Democratic field find a comment about counterfeit health care plans hard to swallow. It's happening today on Inside Politics 92.
This is Inside Politics 92 with Bernard Shaw in Washington and Catherine Crier at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
President Bush is taking his budget plan on the road today. Bush went before the Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, promising his economic recovery plan will work. Though the trip was billed as official, Bush did manage to play a little politics, asking the business leaders to pressure the Democrats in Congress to pass his budget before the March 20th deadline.
We all know this is an election year. The air back in Washington has been thick with feel-good gimmicks that have nothing to do with true prosperity and everything to do with politics. Well, we need to get down to business, literally. And in the critical weeks ahead, common sense must replace partisanship. And I came here to ask for your help.
The president is now in New York for a special United Nations summit, a politically dicey meeting tomorrow when Bush sits down with Chinese Premier Li Peng, his first meeting with the Chinese leader since the massacre on Tiananmen Square. A new Bush quail campaign commercial is hitting television screens in New Hampshire, called Get It Done. It plays off this week's State of the Union speech.
New Hampshire and our nation have been through tough times, and I've given Congress a deadline of March 20th to pass my plan for economic growth. It will cut taxes for families.
Bush's do my bidding or face a battle pitch to Congress is key to a new radio spot, too. It's framed as a flat-out challenge to Capitol Hill.
Bob Kerrey has a pair of new TV pitches to granted state voters. In one, the senator from Nebraska again touts himself as the candidate who can crack open Japanese markets. New ad number 2 focuses on the key Kerry campaign issue, national health insurance.
In this race have figured out that national health insurance is popular, and so they're talking as if they support it, but they don't.
Kerry takes a final swipe at his opponent's positions on health care, warning voters not to accept a counterfeit proposal. Well, Kerry opponents are responding to that commercial and the senator's health care claims with a healthy dose of anger. Paul Tsongas says the ad is misleading and should be taken off the air. He says he's had a health care plan on the table since October. Tsongas is not the only one taking shots at Kerry and his plan.
Senator Tsongas has a good health care program that has some strengths, frankly, that Senator Kerry's plan doesn't have. Senator Harkin and Governor Brown, everybody running for president has promised to provide affordable health care to all Americans in the next year.
Senator Kerry is not being upfront and leveling with the people of New Hampshire. He has a health care bill that he's touting, but what he's not telling you is he's not telling you that it's going to increase your payroll taxes by 5%.
To underscore their gripes, his opponents point out that Kerry's health care legislation has no co-sponsors in the Senate.
Bill Clinton soldiered on today. He stumped in New Hampshire, trying to steer clear of questions about alleged infidelity and audio tapes. The Arkansas governor has already done a mea culpa for comments made during a phone call taped by Jennifer Flowers and trumpeted by the Star. According to the tabloid, the conversation included nasty cracks about New York's governor, Mario Cuomo, and his Italian heritage. One day after saying sorry to Cuomo, Clinton offered this apology in West Orange, New Jersey.
This is my first public appearance anywhere in this area since that incident occurred. And I want to apologize again for any hurt that was caused to any Italian American in this community, in this state, in this region, in this country, and to any others who might have been injured by those remarks.
Later on CNN's Larry King Live, Cuomo discounted his personal ire over the Clinton comments. He laid claim to more important concerns.
What Bill Clinton said is light material compared to some of the stuff that you deal with in this lifetime. So that is not the whole of it. It is not personal indignation. I don't have that right. It is a serious concern with that kind of thinking, whether it is from a presidential candidate or the guy down the block. It's wrong. It's bad for this state. It's bad for this country.
Meantime, Jennifer Flowers doesn't work here anymore. Her boss says the woman who claims to have been Clinton's long-term lover has been let go by the Arkansas Employment Security Appeals Tribunal because she failed to show up for work or call in with an excuse for 3 days.
Marital infidelity, valid political issue, or food for media feeding frenzy. A new Times Mirror poll suggests the public is split on these election year ethical questions, revived by the Clinton controversy. Of 1,008 adults polled nationwide from Friday through Tuesday, nearly 3/4 say they've heard or read charges that Clinton has had extramarital affairs. Of those who knew about the allegations, 44% say the media have covered the story responsibly. 41% disagree. 21% think the media are reporting the charges because they feel voters should know about a candidate's character. 73% say the stories are reported to attract big audiences. About half say if they were a media boss, they would report the allegation against Clinton. 43% say they would not. As for the bottom line at the ballot box, 40% of all those polls say voters should consider marital infidelity in judging a presidential candidate. About half say it should not be a factor.
And now an update on David Duke's uphill battle to get his moniker on presidential primary ballots. The former Ku Klux Klan leader was in South Carolina today to sign up for that state's GOP contest. Within the next half hour, a federal judge is due to rule on whether Duke should get a spot on the Republican ballot in Florida's primary. And 1 week from today, a federal appeals court hears Duke's challenge to Georgia GOP leaders who nexted him from the Peach State primary. Duke blames his blackballing by state politicos on George Bush.
Up next on Inside Politics 92, we'll have a profile of the #1 primary state, New Hampshire. Small place, big stakes. And later in our program, the front runner stumbles. The Granite State can be a hard place for high-profile White House contenders. Stay with us.
Welcome to Hotel Views. Business travel, Holiday Inn or Ramada. Bob?
Susan, you corporate write-off. People on business want a decent meal and a place to rest their bones. That's it. If you had a real job, you'd know that.
Bob, you wing-tipped weasel. Ramada has comfortable rooms, nice restaurants, meeting rooms, and lounges, just like Holiday. But Ramada's Business Club earns you bonus points faster toward over 10,000 gifts. But what would you know about business? Your brain filed for bankruptcy. Case closed. Ramada's in, Holiday's out.
They say diversify to reduce risk, but I'm no financial expert.
I know how to build a house, not a portfolio.
How do you judge each investment? When to buy or sell?
And who has time to follow the market?
Because most people can't be masters at everything, Fidelity Investments created the Fidelity Asset Manager. In one easy mutual fund, it seeks to diversify among and across stocks, bonds, and money markets. And Fidelity professionals carefully watch your investment for you, gradually adjusting your assets to keep pace with changes in the market.
It's designed for those of us who aren't financial experts.
Call now for this free fact kit on the Fidelity Asset Manager.
I called. You should too. There's no pressure to invest. There's no sales charge either. All your money works for you.
Diversification made simple. Call 1-800-356-8100 for your free fact kit. Fidelity Investments. Common sense, uncommon results. Share price, yield, and return will vary.
the voices of American voters.
I think people are disappointed.
We keep having to compromise.
Hear how people really feel about racism, unemployment, and other major issues. The People's Agenda, a Democracy in America special, Sunday, 9 Eastern on CNN.
And here we go. Once again, politicos, pundits, and members of the press are flocking to New Hampshire. CNN's Deborah Potter is there, observing the quadrennial active congregation. She joins us live from Manchester.
Well, Bernie, the political season is definitely underway here, even though the primary is still 3 weeks off, or almost 3 weeks off. But it's with candidates all over the state, you know, it's kind of hard to avoid politics in New Hampshire this time of the year. What's interesting is that most people that we've talked to in New Hampshire don't want to avoid it. And their involvement in politics is just one of the things that makes New Hampshire different. It's something that we were able to sample all over the state of New Hampshire, in restaurants, in bars, in people's living rooms. Welcome to the Alpine Social Club in one of Manchester's working-class neighborhoods. Have a few drinks, play a little pool, talk some politics, independent New Hampshire style.
I've been a registered Democrat all my life. I can't remember ever voting a straight ticket in my life.
Jerry Noel is an unemployed cement worker, part of the old New Hampshire. Gone now are many of the mill and manufacturing jobs that once were the backbone of the state's economy. High tech has taken over, bringing a new New Hampshire, including out-of-staters like Rick Tenney, an engineer from Massachusetts, whose politics fit right in.
I've been independent, okay, and I definitely want to downsize the government, and I want to get the, I want us to take care of us now.
Feisty, conservative, and most of all, active. That's New Hampshire politics. Voting in the presidential primary is a birthright, as much a part of the state's heritage as horses in Kentucky, and taken just as seriously. A lot may have changed in New Hampshire over the past 40 years, but not the passion for politics.
We've grown faster than the country. We've become affluent faster than the country. But politically, we're still one of the most conservative states in the country.
New Hampshire is overwhelmingly Republican, with as many registered independents as Democrats. The independents tend to split almost evenly between the parties on Election Day. But voters can change their registration up to 10 days before the primary, which makes predicting what New Hampshire voters will do a very risky business.
I don't think they like to be told or given any slick Madison Avenue techniques. I think they like to sit down and look the candidates over and look them in the eye and be able to ask them whatever question they want to ask them and then go back and make up their mind.
They have a tradition of upsetting frontrunners here. And if anything, locals say, voters today are more independent than in the past.
Being mill workers or shoe factory workers, it was considered the working class was the Democratic Party, which I think has really changed in the last 50 years.
I think they listen more today to the politicians and vote for the person more than the party.
What is certain is that politics really matters to New Hampshireites. And while the state may not mirror the nation, being whiter and righter, it does have a track record the voters are proud of.
It's been, the last 40 years? Nobody's been elected president unless they win New Hampshire. So we must be doing something right here.
This year, who knows? The voters are paying attention now. They are listening to the candidates, and a lot of them tell us they really have not yet made up their minds. And that, too, is very typically New Hampshire. Catherine?
Thanks, Deborah. Now let's get a pollster's eye view of the Granite State. The big picture from a man who's plugged into the numbers and nuances of New Hampshire voters. Joining us from Manchester is Dick Bennett. He's the president of the American Research Group that's polling and tracking the voters in the inaugural primary state. Mr. Bennett, take a look for us at the New Hampshire voter. Are these voters typical of others across the United States, or is there a unique element you're looking at here?
Well, as Deborah Powell reported, voters in New Hampshire tend to think of themselves as more conservative. That's generally, they think they're more conservative on fiscal matters, and that they are fairly liberal socially, but they are more involved in the process, and they enjoy. And especially this race, they really want to get involved in the process.
Well, you seem to have hit on some of the things that Paul Tsongas has been encouraged by, and certainly the numbers reflect that. He calls himself a social liberal, a fiscal conservative, and has been doing quite well in the polling there. What are some of the issues beyond the obvious, the economy, that the New Hampshire voters are looking at?
Well, it's really the only issue is the economy, but it's the way the economy is, the voters view the economy, and that's jobs. They're concerned about losing their jobs and what will happen to them in the economy. And then the other thing they're concerned about is how do we get more jobs back into New Hampshire? And that's critically important to people. The real estate market has suffered here greatly, and people in New Hampshire believe if we get more people back into the state with jobs, then we'll be able to sell the houses and get real estate prices back up.
What about how stories play in New Hampshire? Bill Clinton has certainly had a story revolving around his campaign for the last several days. How is that playing among the voters? Well,
Bill Clinton went and said to the voters, you decide, and the voters have said, we'll stick by you.
We apologize. We've lost transmission there with Mr. Bennett. Let's go back to Washington and Bernie Shaw.
Thanks, Catherine. When we return, why the frozen fields of New Hampshire have always been hot political ground for presidential candidates. We'll pose some questions to two veterans of the New Hampshire political wars as Inside Politics continues.
Across the world, phones are ringing. Who's calling?
Hello, Mom. It's Jonathan. I'm getting married.
People who are saving money with the AT&T Reach Out World Plan. They're calling friends and family in over 50 countries and areas, talking longer and saving an average of 20%. Even if you spend only $12 a month on international calls, sign up and start saving. Whether you call across the Atlantic, the Pacific, to Canada, or to Mexico.
Did you see the phone bill?
Yeah. Hola, Teodora.
AT&T makes it easy to save on the calls you already made. You'll even get a 5% discount on AT&T state-to-state calls made from your home. Call 1-800-445-3231 and sign up now. Because with this plan, when a loved one is far away, you can go ahead and call.
I miss her, too. We could call her in Tokyo, huh? You want to call Grandma?
And the longer you talk, the more you'll save. No need to wait for the right time to call either. You have over 120 hours a week to save. The AT&T Reach Out World Plan. With these savings and all the quality and service you expect from AT&T, it's our best value in international calling.
I'll call you. We'll call you.
So before you make your next international call 1-800-445-3231 and start saving an average of 20%. All for only $3 a month. Across the world, phones are ringing. Who's calling? Soon it may be you. Sign up now for the AT&T Reach Out World Plan. Call 1-800-445-3231.
Said you can never plan the future by the past, but when it comes to presidential politics and the role the New Hampshire primary plays in them, what's happened before could be a roadmap to what will happen again. Rick Allen is here with a media politics perspective. Rick?
Catherine, we all know the history lesson. Since 1952, no one has won the presidency without first winning the New Hampshire primary. That simple sentence explains the importance of the primary, but it doesn't do justice to the quirky, complicated way the Granite State's voters have gone about doing that job.
New Hampshire is known for its cruelty to frontrunners. Tears in the snow in '72, and Edmund Muskie began a fatal downhill slide. In 1980, George Bush's Big Mo stopped on a dime when Ronald Reagan borrowed a line and a tone of indignation from an old movie.
I am paying for this microphone, Mr.
4 years later, in 1984, Walter Mondale was nearly done in by Gary Hart's new ideas before finding his voice.
Where's the beef?
New Hampshire's most notorious pattern began in 1952. President Truman lost the Democratic primary in a stunning upset to Estes Kefauver. But he, in turn, lost the Democratic nomination to Adlai Stevenson. And he went on to lose the White House to Dwight Eisenhower. Same scenario in 1968. A sitting president, Lyndon Johnson, shattered by the strong showing of an insurgent, Queen Jean McCarthy. But the nomination went to another man, Hubert Humphrey, and the grand prize of the presidency to Richard Nixon and the party out of power.
If a similar pattern were to take place in 1992, and it is a big if, President Bush might be shaken by a strong showing from Pat Buchanan. Then another Republican would emerge and snatch away the nomination, and in November, the Democrats would win the White House. Of course, the new president would have had to win New Hampshire's Democratic primary first. That's one way New Hampshire could keep its record intact, but not the only way. Catherine, I hope that makes it all clear.
Oh, perfectly clear, and we'll make more clear right after this.
Larry Bird was born to be a champion. He was instilled with a competitive fire and passion that would never die.
One way or another, Bird kills you.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ lane.
Larry Joe Bird was destined for glory in the game he loved. Get Bird watching at its best in this amazing video. Larry Bird, a basketball legend. It's free with your paid subscription to Sports Illustrated, the best way to capture all the drama of sports every week.
There's only one place I'd rather be, French Lick.
Through rare footage, you'll follow the victory trail from the cornfields and basketball courts of Indiana to the hallowed halls of the Boston Garden, where the talented young Hoosier resurrects a fallen dynasty.
Larry Bird with a steal. Anderson off the Bird.
Call this toll-free number now and be there when the championships are won. Share the glory, live the moments with the man who touched all who saw him play.
Larry Bird never quits. He has eyes all around his head.
We can always give it to Larry. He needs to step back and shoot a three. Bird, 4-3. Yes!
Exclusive footage captures the hard-fought and emotional duels with longtime rival Magic Johnson.
This game is Larry Bird. I mean, he's doing everything.
This official NBA video is a thrilling 60 minutes that you'll enjoy again and again, free from Sports Illustrated. Get your free video and a full year of Sports Illustrated. 54 issues, including the swimsuit issue, for only $1.29 an issue. Save over 55% off the cover price, and you may use your credit card. Follow all your favorites and all the excitement in Sports Illustrated. Call now to subscribe or renew and get this memorable video free. For quicker delivery, use your credit card. Don't miss this heartwarming tale of a boy who lived his dreams, the dreams of a champion. It's the story of a legend. The legend lives in Sports Illustrated. Call now.
Is there something in the water that makes New Hampshire voters who they are? Certain to have the answers are two of the Granite State's top political insiders. John Stabile, former Republican state chairman and now Bush, New Hampshire finance chairman, and George Bruno, former Democratic state chairman, now with the Clinton, New Hampshire campaign. George, when you think of New Hampshire voters, what comes to mind?
I think of a group of voters who are used to seeing candidates one-on-ones, who are used to seeing their candidates in their schools, in their workplace, out on the street, talking to them about the issues, testing them, exploring issues with them, and really taking their mettle and trying to decide among the field who they're going to vote for.
John, is there a gleeful streak in New Hampshire voters about being spoilers?
Well, I think people in New Hampshire have long considered themselves to be want to have at least talk to, discuss the issues with the candidates, and I don't think it's gleeful. It's just that we're a small, heterogeneous state that is a good cross section of the people in this country.
Well, do the media take the role of projecting what the New Hampshire voters do and reading the tea leaves and making this some sort of national pattern? Or do New Hampshire voters look at it that way?
Remember, nobody that has ever been elected president hasn't come to New Hampshire first since 1952 and got the nomination, won the New Hampshire primary, whether it be Republican or Democrat. So the New Hampshire voters have been very good at prognosticating who would be the type of individual that could be elected president of the United States.
Well, John, I'll have to ask you this question now. Is it likely that those voting Republican in your primary coming up in a couple of weeks, is it likely that they might goose George Bush by giving Pat Buchanan high numbers?
I think we have a certain amount of protest vote that's built right in here, and yes, I do think that Buchanan will do fairly well here in New Hampshire, and the president will get a wake-up call. But I think that's not uncommon at all. You know, it was seated President Gerald Ford who barely defeated Ronald Reagan by 1,500 votes back in, was it 74? You had seated President Lyndon Baines Johnson. They got 49% of the vote to 43% for Eugene McCarthy. I mean, people in New Hampshire, they want to send a message.
George,
I think that there's a certain amount of mischievous in New Hampshire voters where we like to look the candidates in the eye, and sometimes it cuts a candidate down or two who thought that they were getting a little bit big for their britches.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us from the first primary state, New Hampshire. Our top pollster, Bill Schneider, joins us now. Bill, I noticed that you were sort of smiling when Bruno pointed out that New Hampshire voters can be spoilers.
New Hampshire voters can be very mischievous. And, you know, one of the things about the New Hampshire primary, they know they're not picking the President of the United States. They're sending a message, just as the interviewee said in New Hampshire. And so they're perfectly free to make mischief. A lot of them voted for Eugene McCarthy in 1968 against an incumbent president. A lot of them may vote for Pat Buchanan. They know Pat Buchanan's not going to be nominated. He's not going to be president. They want to send a message to Bush. Some of them may be voting for Bill Clinton because they're angry at the way he's been treated by the press. So if he wins the New Hampshire primary, maybe the view will be he's come through this clean, but the issue is not likely to disappear if he makes it all the way to the November ballot.
In the less than 1 minute we have, our executive producer, Chris Garrido, had a question. What's different this time in New Hampshire than before?
Well, I think what's different is that everything is happening much faster than usual. I think the Democratic race is about Bill Clinton because that issue has reared its ugly head, the issue of scandal. The New Hampshire voters have it in their power to say either this guy gets through the process or he's dead meat in the process. We have an incumbent president who could be very much embarrassed. There's more at stake in New Hampshire than ever before because the process has been accelerated and everything is happening earlier than ever.
Bill Schneider, thanks very much. Tomorrow, Senator Tom Harkin gets the Inside Politics profile treatment. We'll bring you the Harkin bio, plus an interview with this would-be resident of the White House. That's it for Inside Politics 92. I'm Bernard Shaw in Washington.
I'm Catherine Crier in Atlanta. Now Cheryl Atkinson has a preview of what's coming up next on CNN.
Coming right up on Early Prime, talk of a luxury tax repeal buoys up the yacht industry. And Chinese Premier Li Peng is to attend a special UN meeting in New York. We profile the man blamed with backing the brutal crackdown in Tiananmen Square. Stay with us.
Coming up, Early Prime continues, followed by Showbiz Today, after a word from your local cable systems, next on CNN.
When I say stand by, it's radio silence.
Go inside one of America's most secret agencies.
Take 5 steps to your right.
Undercover, up close.
Let me know when the helicopters are ready.
A privileged inside look at America's elite drug squad, the DEA.
Now, left turn, Jerry, left turn.
Make sure you buy some of his rights.
Gripping. Compelling.
You got no papers, nothing.
And personal.
I think if we weren't here, things would turn to chaos.
DEA.
I'm Bill Curtis. Join me for Investigative Reports, Friday on A&E.
A small-time dealer turns big-time gangster.
We gonna come off like the mob.
Then it's up to two hard-nosed cops
Let's go!
to take back the streets.
I'm ready to kill Nino Brown.
Wesley Snipes, Ice-T, and Judd Nelson A Cinemax exclusive premiere, New Jack City. Saturday, February 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern. Cinemax. If you like movies, it's the best premium movie service you can get.
Honey, it's Mom. Please let me in. I'm worried.
Learn to see the signs of mental illness. 2 out of 3 people who get help get better. For a free booklet, call the American Mental Health Fund.
Imagine that your television didn't have the capability to bring you live world events and business news 24 hours a day. Didn't have the capability for the movies and specials you love. The capability for the complete spectrum of sports. The capability for music, educational, and children's television. Imagine no capabilities. Television today might look like this. Cable is today's television.